Debora Luzi, welcome to the lockdown sessions.
Hello, nice to be here. Hello, everybody.
I'm delighted to have you here. You're a writer and an author, the founder of the Writers Academy for Entrepreneurs. Correct me if I've got that right or wrong.
You got it perfect.
And also the Global Women Who Dare to Desire. I love this. This is an all-women's conference. You do it globally, so you're in LA, you're in Rome, you're in London. So just a perfect opportunity to visit like 3 fabulous places, by the way.
Yes.
And as well as that, you're a mum of 3 who even finds time for salsa dancing. You were just sharing with me. So we connected quite recently, actually, and we've just learned that we both have a love of sort of ancient healing and techniques. But you've come on the podcast today to really share some of your thoughts and ideas, particularly around kind of words and the power of words. And I kind of almost want to throw the ball straight over into your court, because words is your thing. And what is that power? Because they are super powerful. And as a strong woman working with women, the power of the word is perhaps even more important today than it has been in the past. How do you play with that power of language and what we say?
Right. So I am an absolute words lover. This is so, I always loved writing. The things with me, Brad, was that I never really owned my words. I never really spoke them. All I did was write them in secret in a diary. Because I thought that, speaking my words, speaking my truth, speaking my voice was not allowed, was not interested, was not what, I had to do. So I started to really hide all these thoughts, these emotions, these feelings, these stories, and put it into a diary that became really my best friend. Until later on, when I really realized how much words that are not spoken and expressed can affect your life in a kind of a negative way, right? And why I teach women and men, I have men as well in my writing academy, to find the right words and to really express their truest, most authentic words, is because it's the only way, first of all, to free yourself. And because words that are not spoken, Brad, they carry energies, right? Words carries energy. And because I used to be a healer, I worked a lot with the chakras. I worked a lot with people that have, kind of, you know about this, blockages in their, for example, speaking, in the sacral chakra, in the heart. And all this kind of energy and this suffering that we have, if you look at it, it's because words are not spoken. Words are not truly spoken. Words are half spoken. Words are camouflaged because we need to fit in. We were talking about fitting in. And so my passion is really to teach entrepreneurs that words are the way to heal themselves, the way to show up in the world and attract those beautiful clients that they want. Right?
When you say that, I immediately think, if you don't speak it up, you play up. And if you want to show up really authentically and with presence, you can't be camouflaging your words, right? You have to find the root. And I'm reminded of people in my social circle, when we were younger and I was kind of dabbling at the beginning of my time in and around sort of chakras and healing. when there was this one particular individual, and they would always cough before they were speaking. It was just affected. It was like, and I remember one time being outside with them, and they were, and I said to them, "What are you not saying? Like, what's getting stuck here in your throat that you have to keep coughing?" And it's literally the physical manifestation of what's happening mentally and emotionally. But I'm interested when you say that about, that expression, because you describe it more as a kind of battle between emotionally what I'm feeling I want to say, and intellectually what I'm thinking I should say. How do you connect the two? Because that's like the eternal battle, right? What I think and what I feel.
It's one thing that I wanted to go back to when you said about the voice, right? The coughing. Now I have a little bit of cough because I went to Italy on holiday. But before I healed my throat chakra and I learned to speak my truth, I used to lose my voice completely.
Wow.
About 6 times a year. Now the last time that I felt like that maybe was more than a year ago.
Well, the universe telling you to speak up.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe a little bit more than I do, right? But I used to lose a voice a lot, and it's really true what you said. But what you told me about, you asked me, how do you find the balance? Is right. I think what I see a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, because I work with entrepreneurs, right? They are writing, they are showing up in a way, they're copying words and things from everybody, because from the most successful people, because they think, oh, my clients would like this, I need to show up like that. There's something that I say. You show up with your words, and the right audience will follow you. You do not need to adapt to your audience, especially if you're an entrepreneur. And something that I teach a lot and I see in people that join, people they write a piece of content, Brad, right? They write, and then they do that balance that you were talking about. There's like, maybe you write and you get you get inspiration, right? So you write something and you said, oh, this is really good. I write a lot out of intuition. Mm-hmm. So they write and then they read it and they go,
I can't say that.
Mary might not like that. Oh, there is a swear word. My ex-client is not gonna like that. This one, my coach told me that it's not good to use that word. And then I read yesterday on the news that this word is not good out, and this and that. So, that beautiful piece that comes from your heart, from your inspiration, from intuition, you look it through the logic eyes and to the conditioning eyes. And then you start to take all these words out, all these concepts out. And then you produce a piece of content that I say it's lifeless. And you put it out there and you say, oh, nobody engaged with me. I don't get any people liking me or following me or buying my stuff. Because it's a copycat, because your piece of what you're speaking is not what you really want to speak.
No, it's not your truth, it's someone else's.
Yeah, and I created a beautiful meditation. It's absolutely, I love it. It's a meditation to open this, which is your third eye, which is your intuition, allowing the words to come in. Whatever they are. Most of the time they're crazy. Most of the time they're opinionated.
Yeah.
And then we activate the heart, the feeling, the shame that we feel, the fears, the jealousy, the resentment. There's so much shame that we carry. So we don't talk like, we don't show that because it's shameful. So we awaken all of this because the heart wants to speak. The intuition wants to come out. And then we bring it into the throat chakra. And we release it. And the people in my academy and what I teach is just right. I say to people, I don't care what is coming out. If it makes no sense, if it's silly, if Mark, John, or Lisa thinks that you've gone nuts, just right. And then this is, this is the beautiful balance, that you really need to find, which is combining, for me, is this intuition, heart, and then I mix a little bit of strategies, right? Mm-hmm. And you find this beautiful piece of content that is really real. It's not the same like your neighbor.
Yeah, it's a great story and a great example of how to bring that balance together. I was watching a video the other day. Don Miguel Ruiz, the author of The Four Agreements and Toltec Wisdom. And it was his son actually talking at a conference in Sacramento. And he told this story about how when he was 12 years old, his father took him to a church, and he said to, all the way up to 12 years old, his son would always go to his dad and say, hey, what should I do? And his dad would tell him, what to do. And either his son did it or he didn't. And at 12 years old, they went to this church, and his dad sat in the car, the son got out, and he said, hey, Dad, Father, are you coming in? And his father said, no, you're going inside, and you're not coming out until you've seen an angel. And his son like, what? Yeah, why? Why am I doing this? And his dad said, because I'm tired of you asking me what you should do. You need to find out what you should do. And he sent him in there, and this kid, he's now like in his late 20s, early 30s. And he's telling this story about how he sat in the church for like half an hour thinking, I'm not going to see an angel, right? That's not how it works. What does he mean? And he started to think, and as he started to reflect on it, he started to realize that he doesn't trust his instinct. He doesn't trust his intuition. He's been restricted by his teachers, by his society, by his grandparents telling him what's right, what's wrong. And it totally is.
Sorry, one. Yeah, my husband just walked in. He didn't.
Oh, perfect. Ciao.
No, my husband is from Colombia. So.
Oh, okay. So no ciao.
Hola.
Hola. And throughout this process, what he realized was he needed to open his head and his heart to listen to himself. And this is exactly what you're saying. You have to open the head first, let things come out. Then you have to open the heart and let it sprinkle some of its magic. And then you have to just express it, and when you bring them together. Tell me, how do people respond to that? Because that's quite alternative. It's quite... You wouldn't see that in an average corporate client. And your entrepreneurs are looking, maybe for their corporates. How do they respond to this kind of awakening?
There is something that I want to say. People, the word is becoming more and more conscious. Let me just close the door because
yes, of course.
Okay, one second. I love this life, how do you say, this unexpected moment. You made it more interested.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I think, Brad, is that the word is awakening to truth, to authenticity, and to really connect into these feelings. And something that I teach people how to connect is by sharing the story, for example, by adding emotions, feelings. And this is something that I see the corporate world and big company starting to do. Big brands are now sharing stories to connect emotionally to their clients. Big corporate now are sponsoring projects. They're becoming more aware that people have emotions and feelings, and people buy through emotions and feelings. People buy through connection. So they're starting to realize that they need to share stories. They need to connect to their audience in not such a direct, buy my things, do this, and blah, blah, blah. They need to bring stories, they need to make their audience feel something. And they always knew it. And this is like what I really want to make the corporate world, the one that is not awakened yet, understand that people that buy, they buy through emotions and feelings.
Yes, because we buy people, not product.
Yes. So it's just about getting, people buy. Do you know one of the things, Brad, that people tell me why they buy from me? One of the number one thing.
Go on.
I'm sure you know. It's my earrings. I'm kidding.
By the way, they're fabulous.
No, I was kidding. I love my jokes. So it's my energy.
Yeah.
It's my energy and the way I show up. The way I make them feel.
Well, it was, I'm not the first or the last person to say it, but, people don't remember what you say all the time.
Yeah.
They remember how you make them feel. And
exactly.
I know from years of conferences and workshops, when I meet people again, first of all, I may not remember them instantly unless I engaged and interacted with them, but they will remember how I made them feel that day. And they can't remember what the title of the talk was, by the way. But they can remember what I made them feel like when they left that room. And you're right, because for an entrepreneur is a leader of their own business. And actually, for me as a potential client to want to buy from them, they need to inspire me. And the only way they can inspire me is if they show me their energy. And actually, whether or not people would say that out loud, I'm very proud to say it, that's really what's going on, because the people we connect with, those clients that we have extra strong relationships with, it's because of that energy connection.
Yeah.
We're moving into, a few years ago, we moved into the age of Aquarius, and this awakening for everyone, whether they want it or not, is all about that sense of belonging. So a question for you. COVID changed the landscape. We become digitally hyper-connected and physically disconnected. How does the power of the word and language become even more vital now during this time? Is it even more important for us to focus on our words?
Of course. Because words is what make us connected, right? Is it that things? There's a lot of people that are at home alone. There is a lot of people that are missing other people, like the physical content. So now what we can do is write a message, a phone call, write something that people can read. And I think in this way, words bring us together. And that's why, during the COVID, there was a lot of people that contacted me. I do a writing challenge, and I had a lot of people signing up because people are finding themselves alone. And the only way to express, to free, to, this loneliness is by writing, for example, by speaking. You know what I mean? Like they don't speak, but they write. They get this. And we're not just forgetting, because I am sure that when we are safer, we will go back to hug. I mean, when I see people, I squeeze them to the core. I'm Italian, right? I'm not shaking your hands.
No, give me a hug, come on.
Yeah, I'm like, come here. This is how we do it. So I'm sure we will go back to do that. And I want us to go back to do that, because I think the word again was starting to opening up to hugs and trust, and then suddenly we can't hug anymore, right? So what we have left this desire of, connection, of still, and words. It's an amazing way. That's why I advise a lot of people that message me and they were, feeling lonely, depressed, anxious. I was telling them, write. Or even go live, do a video, talk to your camera by yourself. Because again, we talked about it before, words are energy, so we don't speak them and we go and we swallow.
Yeah.
We don't speak. So they get all stuck in here. That's why we have to get them out. And I wrote a book during COVID, Brad.
Everyone was meant to have a book in them. I realized I didn't have a book in me. The thought of writing a book was more interesting than actually writing one. Tell us about your book.
Yes, so I always wanted to write a book. I started to write a book because I traveled to 55 countries.
Oh, fabulous.
As a backpacker, I've worked like peeling potatoes, avocado, selling jewelry, making jewelry, tour guide, peeling potatoes. I've done everything. And teaching salsa and English and Spanish. And so I wanted to write a book about my traveling. And I started, Brad, and it was handwritten. And I was working in a tile shop as a receptionist. And my book was in my bag and it got stolen. I cried, and I think I had 3 chapters left.
Oh no.
And it was all handwritten.
Oh.
During my traveling. It was beautiful. I tried again to write it. I never managed to. It's sitting here somewhere. I show you. This is the one again, handwritten, that I tried to write again.
I love it. Yeah.
And it's the title is in Italian. It's The Flow of the River. And I never put it out there. And then during COVID, I had an idea before. I was like, I want to write something about content, about words for entrepreneurs. So I wrote it. It's not like lots of words, but it's a very practical book. Mm-hmm. So I don't say much because it's going to come out soon. You're going to have a lot of space to write for people to really connect to their words and to find their true voice in the entrepreneurial word, and convert the words into sales. Remember, with intuition and heart.
I love it. Yeah. I'm going to want to see a copy of that, Deborah.
Yeah, I will send you one. It's going to be my present to you.
It reminds me when I'm listening to you, I don't know if you ever came across an American writer, Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way.
No.
Really beautiful. And there's a connection between what you're talking about and what Julia talks about. Hers is mainly artists, not entrepreneurs. I came across it in the 90s in California. And I was in LA, and there was this bookshop called the Bodhi Tree. And of course, the Bodhi Tree was where the Buddha sat with. And so I went in and I was recommended this book. And it's all about learning to express and write things down. But you see, my attention to detail is not the highest part of my profile. So I started the artist's way, but I didn't finish it. I loved the concept more than the doing. But the 2 or 3 lessons that really stuck with me, I'd be interested in your view here, is to not be frightened of what you're thinking of saying. So you just put it down. The second lesson was when you write it down, you make it real. And then the third thing that she was recommending was when you write it down, if you really want to make it real, you have to also speak it out loud. And I wonder what your view, especially when you're doing maybe your conferences in Dare to Desire, is there a connection between, not just writing it down, but also speaking it out loud?
Yeah, there is an exercise. Actually, I don't know this woman, but there is an exercise that I gave that in my members in my writing academy. So we have a session called Live Writing Get Together. So we get together, I give a prompt, we do the meditation. So we open all the writing channels. We like I mentioned, and then I give 10 minutes and people write. And then I ask people to read it out loud, right? Because when we write and when we speak it, it does have a different energy. And it's almost, when you speak it, it complements that energy. And it's one of the exercises I used to give, Brad, when I used to do the healing on the throat chakra. It was exercising of speaking, writing, and then reading. So they really go together. That's why, words spoken and written. It is very important because you write them, but the real release of the emotions comes the moment that your vocal cords produce the sound. The most powerful sound is ah, right? So you need to make those vocal cords vibrate in order for those words, those emotions, those trapped things to come out. So
That's just, sorry, you were going to carry on. I was just going to say that's fascinating. I'm just interrupting. Carry on.
No, exactly what you were saying. So it's an amazing point that you're saying. Exactly. The words go with the speaking. That's why I don't do just one. I do both.
And I'm interested, again, a little bit from my point of view, actually, because of how I write. So I noticed over the years that when I write and when I speak, they didn't always feel authentic. So the way I would write would be quite formal. But when I speak, my energy is all about being quite informal. Professional, yes, but informal. So I don't curse a lot. It depends on what, the dogs might be doing. But I tend not to curse. So now when I'm trying to write content, so for example, that conference I was sharing with you before we came online, when I'm writing a conference talk, what I actually do is I take my phone, put the recorder on, and I walk around my office here and I just speak, like extemporaneously. I just talk. And then I listen to it back and I write down what I'm speaking. Because for me, it's, if I write and then I speak, I have to edit to make it less formal. But if I speak and then I write, for me, the balance is much closer. Is there a natural order, or can it be either way? Am I just making up the rules because it suits me?
No, it's actually, I love that you said that, because this is something that I teach. And I'm going to bring an Italian saying.
Okay.
Maybe you understand. So in Italy, we say, parla come mangia.
Speak before you eat.
No. Speak as you eat.
Speak as you eat, okay.
So if you eat in a messy way, speak in a messy way. Mm-hmm. If you eat posh, speak posh.
Okay.
Okay? So I've added something. Speak and write as you eat.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I say this, that is the problem, Brad. You meet a person, let's say at an after party, and you've just heard them speaking 20 minutes before, and it's two different people.
Right.
Because they put up that corporate speech. They put up that, all
Hello.
commas, perfect speech. This is you on stage, off stage. When the curtain closes, that's what you are. And that's why I speak in a very informal way. I am quite sarcastic. I'm funny. I'm charming. I love to make jokes. When you see me on stage, you see all of that.
So what I see with you on stage is what I see with you when we're chatting one-on-one,
Yes.
what I see with you when you post on social media. I see one person in all the areas of your life. Actually, it's much easier to be like that, right? It's far less effort.
Fake it.
Right.
It's easier, Brad. And it's like that, and that's the things that I want to say. That is what will stand you apart from John, Mary, and Gina. I am really against these people, this speaker training, that they go and have their formulas, which is sit like this, pretend to be on the phone, pretend to cry, do this, sit on the left, and then walk on the right. And it's like, no, this works for you, but this is not me. I want to swear. I want to twitch. I want to do this. I want to do that on stage. I want to shake my things. You know what I mean?
You're a salsa dancer.
Yeah. Do you know how I went on stage in my conference?
I can only imagine, but
There
I imagine
you
you
go.
danced on.
The music was loud. I went on stage with a reggaeton song.
Brilliant.
Loud, and I was shaking all I had.
And I'm sure people were cheering.
Yeah, everybody was happy.
Listen, I know because I love music. I grew up in a musical family, so music was everywhere in my house. And when I was a young boy playing piano, my mother taught me how to play jazz. And whenever I would come home from school, I would play jazz for her, and she would jive with the piano. So in my house, it was music and movement all the time. So in all of my workshops, even like executive level leadership workshops, when they walk into the room, there's a playlist. And when I set them a task to discuss, the long range plan strategy, there's background music. Maybe it's the Rolling Stones, or maybe today I was running a webinar before we came on, and I had Basement Jacks playing, and people were coming in from Asia. They were like little notes in the window, nice music. I think this point you make for me is really key, which is you have to know what your brand is, your personal brand, and you have to be it. You have to own it. You have to be bold. You have to be consistent. And this is where I think the word is really important, because if I'm learning anything from you, what you're saying is, this isn't just about what you say. It's about what you say, it's about what you write, and it's about how you show up, right? And I think this for me is really important. And I think, when I look at the corporate world, when I set up in business back in 1996, it was me and 3 other guys. Now, we only lasted 4 years together, and then 2 went off on their own, and another 2 of us, we went our separate ways. But one of the guys who stayed in that business, and he's still running it now very successfully. I remember one time we stayed back, the 4 of us in the office, and we decided we would do like cold calling to clients. So it's like 1996. And we're doing this cold calling, and he comes upstairs. I was upstairs, he was downstairs. And he comes upstairs, he goes, "Brad, can I give you some feedback?" I said, "Mike, of course." he says to me, "Who are you?" I'm like, "What?" He goes, "I'm listening to you from downstairs. I don't recognize who I'm listening to. You're putting on like this public school head boy voice. Hello, my name's Brad from, the name of the company. I want to talk to..." He goes, "Be yourself. Who are you?" And you know what? It's 25 years since he and I had that conversation. And I'm so grateful that he said that to me. Because in that moment, he changed the way I grew my future business. And I can think you're inspiring me to remember as well. I can go back to maybe 2002, 2003, a new client in Yorkshire. I'd driven up in the morning. I was wearing a suit, shirt and tie, cufflinks, looking very sharp. I had a 68-page document of notes, of preparation and exercises and handouts for everybody. And I was taken into the room by my sponsor. And they said, well, you're a little bit early, so people will come in like the next 45 minutes. Deborah, after about 10 minutes of setting the room up, I started to get a really hot flush. I thought, what's going on? I needed to go outside. So I went outside. I'm walking around the office car park. And the noise in my head was, take your tie off. It's not you. Take your jacket off, roll your sleeves up. Get rid of this script. You know this content. Go and talk to these people and engage with them. Give them an experience. And I went back down into the room, took my tie off, rolled my sleeves up, took my jacket off, threw the book in the bin, and I ran the workshop without a book. And I never looked back from this moment. And to me, what you're reminding me of is that we have to listen to that intuition before we write, before we speak, before we act. And it all needs to be congruent. I'm wondering, because you spend time working specifically with females, do you observe and notice a difference in the authenticity of women that you work with, either in them tapping into that authenticity or perhaps needing more courage to show that authenticity?
I mean, definitely, I noticed a difference. I mean, there's men in the academy as well, and I follow a few men. And it's not a generic things, but I worked with a few men that as well. I'm going to be a bit contradictive here.
Okay.
But I want to put this point across, and it might sound contradicted because I don't believe there is one fit all things. So I just want to give a couple of examples. But on one side, men are showing up in a little bit bolder than women because they're in a way, like, women, we grow up very conditioned, like, be the good girl, don't show, don't say that. So we learn not to say, like, to go against people. We learn not to be humble. And, men, like, go for it a little bit more. So you can see sometimes the content of men is a little bit more direct, a little bit more out there, opinionated than women. So women takes a little bit more time to come out, especially to shine. I teach them to, you had this beautiful result, just tell the word. A man doesn't have a problem about bragging about themselves, but women have. So I find that. But then the men don't embrace that feminine side, which is going into the feelings.
Yeah.
It's all about boom, 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 numbers. And many men that I read the content, because I love to read, and many times I do case study from, what I see. And many men are disconnected
Without question. Yeah.
Yes. Because, again, it's not their fault. It's how, they've been brought up. Don't cry. This is not a man things. Or a man be come on, man up. You cry. What is the reason? Do that.
It's brilliant. So basically, I can blame my parents for my entire lack of emotional intelligence because they're the ones who taught me all those things.
No, we can only blame ourselves, Brad, because, of course, you're joking. It's us. I believe, like I had a lot of, I grew up with a lot of beliefs. And for a long time, I disliked my parents. I disliked them and I blamed them for the way I was. But that was the biggest blessing because I don't know if you are into the spiritual things, like Louise Hay says, we choose our parents. And I believe that in a way, right? But going back to that, I had a conversation with a few men on LinkedIn. I did a training in a group about authenticity and about giving ideas, intuition, and heart. And those men were like, oh my God, I love this. You could see they were craving. They wanted to be like that. And we had a long conversation on Messenger. And they said to me, we can't because we're too corporate.
The expectation is that
I'm going to lose my following.
Yeah.
I cannot show them that I'm vulnerable. I cannot show them that I failed. I need to, and I was like, no. When a vulnerability comes from a woman, when a vulnerability, Brad, comes from a man, it's like, wow.
Well, it's more powerful because it creates total credibility, even from a leadership perspective. We need to be able, I think, whether you're male or female or with gender fluidity, anywhere in between, whoever you identify with, I don't even think that matters. Because for me, we need to be able to say what we've done well without sounding like a show-off. And we need to say when we failed or be vulnerable without somehow feeling completely exposed. And this is, for me, the interpretation of what you're saying. It's a leadership trait to be able to show that vulnerability. It's a bit like asking for help. A very male-dominated behavior is not to ask for help. Actually, when you ask for help, you find out that lots of people were waiting for you to ask them. They're there, ready to help you. You just didn't ask, so they didn't think you needed it.
Yeah, being vulnerable, and everybody talks about it, so I'm not saying, but especially for a man, it is an act of courage. And the way we teach, I have 3 boys, and I believe that the universe gave me 3 boys for a reason, right? And I'm trying to, they cry, and I said, it's okay. And I talk to them. My husband is more like, no, you talk to them too much. And I'm like, no, I need to see how they feel. I can't just, tell them go to the room and then,
it's all staying down. Well, it's going to come out at some point, so let's get it out at the beginning.
Yeah. So I talk to my children. I listen. Why are you upset? Why do you want to break the wall? Right? So to me, tears are an act of courage from a man. To me, a man being vulnerable is an act of courage. It's even sexy, right? It's not, men think that it's weakness. It is not.
That's conditioning though, right?
It is all this conditioning.
Yeah.
It's not about the macho man, and it's about, again, that balance, Brad, that we were talking about, vulnerability, but I'm here, and feeling, really expressing ourselves. Otherwise, you keep everything in there and then you explode. That's why there's so much violence amongst men.
And it's interesting because when you say that, for me, it kind of builds a really neat full circle, because that courage that you talk about, the expression of the emotion, is not about writing out a statement of how I'm feeling, so it amends and adapts to how people want to hear it. No, it's a natural, authentic expression, and I might not get all the words right, and they might not even come out in the right order, but it's that authenticity that I think makes, to your first point right back when we first started talking, that makes people want to buy from them.
Yeah. And there is one thing that I want to add, and I teach a lot, Brad, is when you share story, when you share vulnerability, that's why a lot of people see it in a negative way, because people share it from the victim side.
Right.
To get pity, to get sorry. I always share my vulnerability from vulnerability, but with a message, with awareness, and with like, I'm learning. I'm upset here. This is what's happening. But I see the light. And that's why this is something that I see people teaching on stage, be vulnerable. And people start to share vulnerability from the victim. From they get me, give me pity, or from also the power side. Do you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, very much.
From the manipulative side. Because it is taught like that. I've been to conferences where men and, whatever they taught, they use vulnerability to get that kind of power and attention that you wonder, is it real?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not delivered deeply from here.
No, it was learned from a textbook.
Yeah, and with a message. Any vulnerability need to be wrapped up and delivered with a message, with a positive message, with a learning from you.
I like when you said it's vulnerability with awareness, and I think that instantly moves you away from being, a victim. We teach that in all forms of psychotherapeutic practice. I do a lot of work with young people and mental health issues, and often that vulnerability comes out. They don't share it with their parents, they share it with their therapist, but once it's out, it's out. So let's get it out, and then let's build the awareness around it, because that's how you learn and that's how you grow. Look, I'm always mindful of how when we reach a point where it feels like it's gone in a circle, it's always time to push pause and then say, you've got to come back, Deborah, by the way.
That's fine. I really enjoy this, Brad. I think I mentioned it to you before. You have a really natural way of, how do you say, delivering and kind of driving, through. And it's, I really, really enjoyed. So yes, please, I want to be back.
Good. And I'm going to take that from someone who dances their way onto stage and teaches other people how to communicate and express. So I'm going to say thank you for that one.
And next time, I'm going to promise you a salsa move on the next podcast.
I think what we do is we have you slightly off camera when we start the podcast, and you can move into view. I can put some music on in the background. You can send me your favorite track. Look, Deborah, just summarize for me, if you will. If you want people to go away with like 2 learnings from listening to you today, share them with me as a little summary. What is the key message you want people to feel from this?
There's one thing I want to remind everybody of, that Italian saying, parla come mangia, which is speak, and I add write, speak and write as you eat. It's incredible, and if you really apply that into your business, into your life, then, your life will be easier, because you don't have to remember. Life, people say life is a show, but life is a show where you're always the leading role. Not one day you are the Hamlet and next day you are Romeo, and then the other day you are, God knows, the Macbeth, or do you know what I mean? is your show with you on the show as you are. It's not that you have to remember, oh, I need to, how was I? Oh, I need to put this mask on. I need to be like that. I need to interpret it. Life is your show, and show up as your leading role in any circumstances. And this is what is going to set you apart. This is what is going to make your life do what you do with love, not as a chore. A lot of the time people feel that their business and things has become a chore. You know why? Because they are learning to be a Romeo or the Hamlet, and they forgot who they are. So it becomes a chore to learn how to be that way, and it becomes not natural, and it's an effort, it's a dragging. And you don't, like, I wake up and I don't care. I do salsa video. Actually, I did a salsa video where I got so many clients, Brad. It was in a very corporate group. I showed up, shaking everything, talking about my product and services. I had people signing up. I didn't have to pretend.
Well, people want a bit of that energy, Deborah. That's why.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
This is really my teaching. And another thing, it drives me insane because everybody talks about authenticity. Be you, be authentic, be real. And then you go and strip, and they're not. And I love integrity here. And if I'm real, there is still a part of me that is not out. But it's more out than anybody, more than most people.
Well, you know, I was asking someone last week, we were coaching, they said they want to be more authentic. This was what they said, right? And I said to them, look, if you were going to be more authentic tomorrow, what would you do? And he just looked at me. He couldn't answer the question. So actually, the coaching was really valuable because we unpicked and unpacked what it means to actually be authentic. But I think your expression of speak and write as you eat, I think what you've done there is you've given us the title of this episode. I'm going to capture it, and that I think is going to go in to the title of the episode this week. When the episode drops, speak and write as you eat. I might even just put it in Italian as well.
Yes, I'll write
so
it
it's
to you.
a little subtitle.
You said something, Brad, and when you said about how to be more authentic, can I give you one tip?
Yeah, go away. Let's hear
For
it.
everybody that you want to be more authentic, then watch yourself, what you do when the button is off. When the door is closed and when there is nobody around. What do you do when nobody is watching? How do you write when nobody is reading? That is your authenticity. You don't have to go very far. When I press the button and I'm off speaking to Brad, I'm not like, oh, being somebody else. It's exactly the same. I'm still going to shake my shoulder, right? So that's how you're more authentic.
I love it. What a great ending. Just to reflect for a moment for everyone listening to this. Because obviously when the podcast is released, there'll be some music following this in a moment, right? But just to leave it hanging, what are you like when no one's watching? ... Debora Luzi, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for your energy and your content.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, really, really a pleasure. And thank you so much for everybody who's going to watch on the replay. Connect with me. I love to hear from you. And yes.
We'll put a link out to allow and enable people to contact you direct. And we'll see you again maybe in 6 weeks or something. And we'll find out what else you've got for us. How about that?
I love it. Absolutely. Let's do it.
I'll say ciao. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll speak again very soon.
Grazie. Ciao.
Grazie.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.